Hello and welcome to another episode on the Cybersec Migrant. This is our first episode for the year 2025, our first interview for 2025. So welcome. Happy New Year to everyone. Here's wishing you the very best of 2025 from the Cybersec Migrant team. My name is Femi and I'm your host. Today I have a returning guest. I did speak about it a few episodes ago that I was going to be having him back, and today we have Gbolabo back. The last time Gbolabo and I we spoke about digital trust and his Cybersecurity story. You can catch that episode here. I put a card up here so you can catch that. Welcome and Happy New Year.
All right, thank you very much for me. I think it's a pleasure being your first guest this year. Maybe it's a good sign,
It's a good sign.
Things
Yes,
to
good
come.
things are coming. Good things are coming.
Yes.
Yes. So the last time we spoke, we spoke a lot about what Cybersecurity does, what digital trust does, and that got me thinking that there's a lot of, again, when I first moved to Canada, I used to tell people that cybersecurity is one of those industries where you don't need what they call localized experience for it to, well, it's useful, but you don't need that. Because when we talk about zero trust, it's not like zero trust in Nigeria is different from zero trust in Canada, is different from zero trust in India. Or it's not like SOC operations are different. They're all the same thing everywhere. So it's one of those industries where you can actually go in and do things pretty much, hit the ground running, like they say. But I know that there's differences as well. So I wanted us to use this episode to sort of talk about, what are the similarities, what are the differences between, what we do in Canada in terms of cybersecurity and what we do in what you guys do in Nigeria as well. And I wanted us to start with like a sort of overview of what the current state of cybersecurity in Nigeria is like. And I know there's a lot of that happening recently, particularly with the banking sector, with the fintechs, all of that. There's been a lot. So, short summary, what would you say is the current state of the industry in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you. So for Nigeria, it's well, from a cybersecurity provider perspective, it's been quite exciting. Year on year, cyber crime and cyber incidences have increased by 300% just for the past 5 years. It's it's a no-brainer. If you look at the landscape, the advent or would I say proliferation of fintechs, digital banks, everybody's tech, without having adequate security programs in place, to also initiatives coming up, and the fact that cybersecurity definitely roots has been an afterthought and it's improving now. So from my own perspective, I see it as, and if you also look at the landscape from an innovation perspective, Nigeria is doing well, in Africa, even to the world, tech companies, founders, solutions. And it's, for me, I tell people it's a no-brainer. As you innovate, more attack vectors come through, more opportunities to breach. So for example, when you innovate on solutions, let's say you tell customers, use your palm to pay, and we've not put controls in place, and sort of an attack vector, the palm print can be used to make payments without you being there. So the question is, as you innovate, what controls have you put in place? And that always follows innovation. When there's a new channel, when there's an opening that is not secure properly, there would always be that increase, and then the controls will now start coming in from a reactionary perspective. So, but yeah, based on the kind of speed we are looking at, we are innovating more than we're secure, which maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing, but we are working, entities like Cybersecurity and other companies are working with players, in that space in Nigeria today to ensure they are, as part of their roadmap, implementing controls, processes, even people in place. You would see, for example, an average fintech captain company has gone to market. They don't have a CISO, no security officer, and then it's an afterthought, and then they roll back. So yeah, there's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of go to market, a lot of releases, and then organizations are backtracking. You even see it in government. You see platforms launched, and then you get it was breached. Look at the NIMC situation. A lot of initiatives will roll out, and then you will discover no adequate controls were put in place. And there's a denial of service and shut down till controls are put in place. So yes, I would say for Nigeria year on year, about 300%, it's a lot,
It's a lot.
which is why there's a need for cybersecurity profession. There's a need constantly I get requests every month. People need cybersecurity professionals. So yes, that's for Nigeria. It's like I said, it's exciting because it shows that we are growing. It shows growth. I think it just needs to be done properly. Say, as you're growing, you're building to last. You're building or you're innovating securely. But yeah, so that's the situation. We believe, for example, 2025 will be better. I think organizations, founders are more aware. The regulator is also doing a fantastic job. We see a lot of fintechs now before they get their license. They've been asked to ensure some frameworks are in place. And for you to achieve those frameworks, some controls need to be in place. As long as we have cybersecurity companies that would cut corners for those organizations and ensure they put those controls in place before they give them a certificate, then all will be well then.
Yeah. You spoke about frameworks. I'll come back to frameworks in a bit. But I'm just thinking about the same thing here as well. I think it's the same thing here. There's also been, people will consider that Canada is a relatively mature country in terms of cybersecurity and all that. And not wrong. I just think that sometimes we are not as mature as we are perceived. Particularly because there's the way some things do happen and the way you'd hear about some breaches or incidents that happen and all of that. Particularly looking at the threat landscape that we face. And I think it's quite different because I know that with Nigeria, for example, some of the biggest industries that face, cyber threats are fin services, so fintechs, banks, and all of that. In Nigeria, one of the biggest. Not that we don't have those here. We get those here as well, with the banks and particularly with our Interact transfer system, because we've got this money transfer system that, just with a phone number or an email address, you can send money across, and there's lots of scams around that. But in recent years, the biggest threats have come to industries in public sector. So we're talking utilities, for example. Power utilities have been among the biggest hits in North America, particularly in Canada in the last 2 years. And healthcare. So power utilities, healthcare, even public libraries as well have been big hits. So, and I know that that's a bit of a difference because I don't know, I've not heard of any massive healthcare breaches or attacks in Nigeria. Is it because we don't have a lot of healthcare at that level where there's a lot of it in digital space because the fintechs are leading the way there? Or is it because, again, that's what I was just thinking about as you were speaking, that's true. Power sector here and healthcare, big victims, especially 2024.
So from you say I was laughing the way so yes, for Canada, critical national infrastructure based on advancement and development. For Nigeria, medical records. So if you look for the Nigerian space, our attack vectors, like you mentioned, the industries cover financial services, telco, government. The other broke down. So for example, every time you hear supply chain security issues, cybersecurity issues for supply chain, and you hear Nigerians buzzing out, I like supply chain in Nigeria, as in you have to look at industries to look at, okay, who's deliberately leveraging tech and how is it affecting you and how can the cyber security breach affect you? So there are a lot of industries that they are tech driven, but I think operationally, and I'll give you an example. So yeah, there are some big hospitals now in the country, and I'm sure they leverage tech, for the records. But some of them are a bit of an hybrid system, not completely online. And it will take a completely online medical system from, say, the general hospital to the private hospital to even the Ministry of Health to the HMOs, for example. I'll give you an example. If you go to the hospital today and you go with your card, they literally make a phone call to the HMO to confirm they give them like your number to confirm the level of services you can get. Let's say you want to do a scan that should be very expensive. They actually place a phone call to your HMO and HMO checks his record and says, yes, go ahead and do the scan for free as part of the insurance. But no, this insurance doesn't, a phone call, not a query to a database API.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
So yeah, there will be no medical breaches in Nigeria until we plug online.
Until we do that. Yeah.
So for now, that's why I said a bit hybrid. Because you go to the hospital, you see they have records. You give them your card, they're punching in, the details come out. And for regular services, yes, then all of a sudden some scan or some type of drug that is expensive, and from the system they have, they've not pulled that data, and they call your HMO to confirm that yes, this test can happen or this scan can happen. So, and I know this happens a lot with even renowned hospitals that you would say provide good services, compared to now the general hospitals and teaching hospitals. So yeah, for the medical records, we're not there yet. I'm sure it's a journey, we'll get there. For fintechs that are into Medcare, they still don't hold any records. The most is there'll be like an interface or a channel to a remote medical practitioner. But yeah, nothing major for healthcare. Nothing major for healthcare. So same
So
thing
that's
for
a big difference there.
education.
That's a big difference there.
Yeah. So there's a lot of utility infrastructure that are not completely, so some offline, some sort of hybrid, and I would say for our awareness level, maybe it's good until we are ready, because so let's say someone, no, so let's say a new Dangote comes up and decides to operationalize, put all medical records online, plug all hospitals. Better have a plan to secure all that connectivity too, which I think should be
and
in
the
place,
data.
and the data too, So it's a lot of, see, the Nigerian situation is a bit dicey, and I'll give you an example. I was end of last year, I was watching the news, and the interior minister, so he got a bit of hype on what he did with the customs and how you can now get your passports quicker.
Online.
So he was questioned about why there is no effective data sharing between customs and law enforcement, and even, for example, national infrastructure like for vehicle license, just different data sources that can help you aggregate and confirm a particular status. And then he talked about how there's been a lot of dependence on third parties for data residency, how they are building a data center, which I thought was impressive if it was going to be done well. Because basically, that data center will be housing critical national data, like critical national information.
Yeah.
And what he's saying is everybody's passport data, custom information, to even third parties, maybe the Interpol arm of the country. A lot of databases can be aggregated to NIMSI to get every time you query, whatever, you can pull up his info and confirm date of birth is uniform across board, can track his activity and also. Anyway, he said they're working on building a data center, and it's from a data security perspective, which of course caught my attention. So yeah, let's see how that goes when they're done with data center. A lot of states too, I think Lagos State too, they have some data center services that have been set up, which I'm sure, and I know they are taking data privacy seriously, the 51 MDAs, and ensuring they comply to the NDPA here.
Okay.
And
that's good.
Even some specific ISO standards for information security management, business continuity, and that's because they've built an infrastructure and need to ensure they are aligning with global best practices. Very impressive for us, and I think that's because there was an infusion of young tech-related, politicians.
Individuals into
I'll put it that way. So, but that's why I said let's see how it goes. Maybe in the next 2 years, at least before the first term of the current government runs out, we should see some proper advancement in critical national infrastructure, and then we will know whether we are facing any threats to the infrastructure.
I agree with you. That's something I've always wondered, because I remember so many times when they say you should go and register for your BVN, and they want to get your driver's license, and they want to get your NIN, and my grounds was always, I am submitting the exact same information 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 different people. Why? Because here, I submit my information once, and I can get my healthcare records, my driver's license, passport information, all of that information from that same one source. And there's a lot of data sharing, between these various arms of government. So it makes everything a lot more seamless.
It's very inconsistent. So last trip out of the country, I got back. Same question. They collect my passport. Those custom guys, Nigeria now, I'm into Nigeria, and they also ask you your address and phone number. Then I was like, are you trying to confirm if what's your record is correct or you don't have it? Either way, I just give it to them. So, boy, yeah, it's what it is.
Now, do you think that's a function of government policy and regulatory challenges or regulatory posture within the government? Because I think also that's a big factor, because if there's good regulatory, there's good regulatory oversight, there's good policies in place, that would help. So do you think maybe that's something that the Nigerian government or wants to provide a bit more support for, policy and regulatory oversight to actually help these things work together? Or what do you think?
So I think for every government that comes into play, there's always that talk about developing these sectors. I want to be careful with the next things I would say, so it won't be like I'm supporting the current government. But I would say, from what we've seen, this current government, maybe the comfort is, at least we see that the people, some appointments are a bit techy. There's a lot of emphasis on building tech to drive operations.
Yeah.
Again, if you go back to the airports, just a little improvement in how they are using the systems now. And it's making us move quicker whenever we come into the country. So again, we just need to wait. And I think it's clear what needs to be done. The issue has always been execution and sustaining whatever has been set up. So yes, we need to wait and see. A lot of things are in the works. Again, we don't have a choice than to wait, for this time to run its course, and then we'll see how it goes. But obviously, there's everything we need. There are tech companies, there are tech. The good thing is the Minister of Tech used to be a tech bro too, and of course, when it comes to who should be able to do what, yeah. So when it comes to who should be able to do what, actually, he has a laundry list of, a repository of good hands that can implement some of these initiatives. So that's why we just need to wait and see, how things go.
I agree, because I remember, so Alberta, one of the provinces here, for a very long time, it's a very oil-dependent province. The bulk of Canada's oil is in Alberta, so very oil-dependent. And when there was the oil issue, there was a lot of problem. But the current government in Alberta, the deputy, I believe he's the deputy premier, so like deputy head of the government. He's also the Minister for Science and Technology, and he's a cybersecurity bro, not just tech bro. He's a cyber bro. So
nice.
In the last 18 months, if you see the level of investment that the government of Alberta has put into cybersecurity, in terms of hiring, in terms of policies, in terms of frameworks, it's not the new bride for cybersecurity in Canada. So that's very interesting. I'm watching to see how that plays out. So I think it's very important that, the government it's important that government provides the right environment, the right policies, the right oversight, and then let the tech bros do their thing. They would always do. Hey, Cybersec Migrant listeners, if you're enjoying the show, help us spread the word. Share the Cybersec Migrant podcast with your friends, your colleagues, and your network. It's the best way to help others discover our awesome content and to join the conversation. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and any other place where you get your podcast, so you never miss an episode. And do hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Your support helps us keep bringing you more valuable content, insights, and stories, and all these tips from the world of cybersecurity. And thank you for tuning in. And now, let's get back to today's episode. Now, we're talking about frameworks earlier, and that's something that I also noticed when I moved here. Many times when you're developing your policies, your frameworks, baselines, all of that. So there's a heavy emphasis on NIST, whereas in places like Nigeria, there's more focus on ISO standards. So in North America, there's a lot of emphasis on NIST. So we use a lot of NIST frameworks, NIST CSF, all the various NIST special publications, 853, 200, whatever it is. Whereas in places like Nigeria, there's a lot more focus on ISO. So the ISO 27, ISO 28, all of the various ISOs. Is that something you've looked at before, wondered why there's a focus on one person than the other?
Okay, so from a policy perspective, I would say the NIST approach is a better structured approach, because then there was emphasis on frameworks. And why Nigeria are focusing on policies is because a regulator jumped on that and pushed that, okay, so I'll give you an example. A tech company is coming up, and all he wants to do is get ISO 27001 and PCI DSS if he's going to be doing payments for card data. And that's because that's what the regulator has told him to put in place. So It's
Yeah.
more of what I've been asked to do, what I've been asked to put in place. But if you look at the average organization that is not under regulation, so I remember before the craze of getting frameworks and standards, certifying to standards came up, we were doing a lot of NIST. It was the NIST framework that we would follow through, even OWASP Top 10
Okay.
from way back
Yeah.
before standards, before CBN started telling organizations to comply to standards. And I'll give you, I remember back then in InterSwitch, no, when we got PCI, then we were the first to get PCI in the country. No regulator told us to get it. We just thought it was something we should have, and that's because we used to interface with Visa, Mastercard a lot, and other payment providers abroad. Then before PCI, I remember most of our information security policies and programs was NIST related. For the
Mm.
development team, then in InterSwitch, OWASP Top 10, internally, how we were developing policies to guide them, from a standard operating procedure perspective. But when the regulator now came through and every entity believed, oh, let me align with the regulator so I can have peace of mind, a lot of
Yeah.
priority went to the standards. So for some mature environments that already had implemented frameworks in the past, when it was time to comply to the standards, they already had some requirements covered. And all they had to do was optimize additional requirements they didn't have and then comply to the standards. So in a way, you would do, if you have an understanding of the NIST framework, you can tell that, yes, I have everything I need. And it helps you in operationalizing, which is to keep you secure around the clock, not just to comply to a standard. And there's that
Yeah.
journey where we
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
so it got to a point we have to start letting organizations know that the fact that you've complied to this standard does not mean you are secure. So, and that's where you go off standard and looking at, effective security programs. So yes, it was a bit of a bandwagon effect. Why standards are flying
Yes.
everywhere now. And if you look at it too, speaking to my competitors, there's a bit of a commercialization of cybersecurity organizations. Always trying to make money. So yes, standards here, standard there. And just a few people are focusing on effective operationalization and running a robust security program. So yes, the foundation wasn't so structured. It was more of go and comply to this standard, not, hey guys, look at best practices before you now start making it. Because now you would, and I can tell you for free, I have fintechs today that because they've not gotten funding, some can't even afford to comply to the standards. So they have structure in place. They probably build secure applications. But once they can't raise funds to comply to one or two standards to help them
ISO
get their
27.
license, exactly. Yeah, there was a bandwagon effect at some point, CBN, IT blueprint, blah, blah, blah. Everybody was rushing at it. There was no drive from a national security perspective that, hey, every organization should ensure they have a security program in place aligning with this global security framework. Because even if you look
Yeah,
at
that's
the
something I completely agree. I think
CBN risk-based cybersecurity framework, it is still called the CBN risk-based cybersecurity framework. So in a way, it's still CBN. But the level we should get to now is there should be a drive from NIST, which we would say is the National Technology Office of the country, to push such frameworks to every organization. But then, out of NIST, as NDPC come out, which is for NDPA for privacy, and then CBN is driving standards for tech companies. So there would be other organizations that are not under the regulation of CBN and SEC, that won't be compliant to standards because nobody's telling them to, except they have a very security savvy CTO or IT manager, and then or they get breached, they hit an inflection point, and all that.
I think that's true. Once he who pays the piper dictates the tune, and that's why CBN can actually. I think that's probably why ISO is the biggest, there. Here in Canada, for example, I know there's a lot more focus on this. A lot of people do ISO, yes, because ISO is also global, but there's a lot more focus on NIST. I think it's because we've got these big neighbors to the south, where NIST originates from in the first place. And the level of collaboration, cooperation, business between both of those countries is huge that you just have to do what they do there. So that's one of the reasons why NIST is very big. But like you said, NIST is a very, very robust series of, framework. I think if as an entity you are trying to get into the space where you are trying to be secure, frameworks are a good way to meet the standards. So I think they're very, very complementary, if I can put it that way. Yes. So anyway, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the thing that everybody is talking about today. That is the biggest thing right now, AI. What do you think is the role of AI going forward? How do you think AI is, in that market? Here, all these AI for is to clone businesses and try to hack as many people as they can. What do you think is the role of AI going forward?
So from a cybersecurity perspective, there are a lot of things happening that will be termed as AI. So I'll give you an example. Look at SOA, orchestration and automation. You can justify it as artificial intelligence, some level of artificial intelligence driving your operations. And that's because it's the structure of the technologies align and they're the same. AI is embraced in cybersecurity because it's helping us today respond quicker to incidents.
Yes.
It is helping us today be more proactive in detecting, before an actual breach, playing around with data sets, playing around with information, and being able to get actionable data that can help you make the right decisions. So from a security operations perspective in the SOC, AI is embraced. It still boils back to when things were a bit manual and you would need to do some form of scripting to get some critical data out to either make a decision or to optimize your security control. So basically, if you ask me what AI has helped us achieve in cybersecurity, two critical things: quicker detection rates. It has helped us become more proactive to be able to detect quickly and prevent. Also, with AI models these days, threat modeling is more effective. It's quicker.
That's true.
And almost accurate. So they are the applications of AI, and we can't overstate it because the truth is, from a security perspective, you still need to put some attention to detail. And I'll give you specific examples. Look at automated pen testing. You still need to, there are some tasks and activities that will be carried out during, an enterprise pen test, and the human factor still comes into it. With a lot of automation and, AI, there's a speed, execution is faster and, you get your results a bit more accurate, and all that. So it's value. What's making it easy is that every security solution provider is optimizing. And I'll give you an example. Every security solution provider is moving to leaving boxes and moving to the cloud. Everybody is moving to a SaaS, MSSP models to, you buying the solution, buying a box and managing it. And with that, I remember last year, I was getting updates every other week from different, because we work with a lot of OEMs, version this, version that, and it involved some application of artificial intelligence to improve the accuracy of detection. There were even some big players that acquired, small AI companies just to optimize, their own solutions. So already the OEMs are doing the job. We, the operators or the engineers, the implementer, now what we're doing is scaling up to the newer versions, scaling up to new features and capabilities, which we do immediately those releases come out to be able to serve the customer, have that skill level to manage the solution. Because the truth is, with a lot of advancement, the end user is not picking up on this until there's an incident. So what we try to do now is with every update that we think is valuable, we run workshops with our customers on specific features or how to do some carry out some admin tasks better. So, but yeah, so detection has improved, response to has improved, identifying false positives, reducing the number of logs that come into, that's collected, filtering and streamlining to just actionable data. So yeah, the benefits are immense, and I think we'll continue to leverage as we scale. So, for example, last year I read the research about how,
like you rightly said,
AI has helped in.
And I always tell people, we've been using AI in cybersecurity for long before AI became mainstream. Because no human being is ready to go pour through millions of lines of logs without any assistance. So that was one of the first places where AI, or more accurately, machine learning actually came into play. Reviewing logs, helping us to see that okay, this looks anomalous. Let's go investigate a bit further and all of that. And it will continue to be a part of our industry. Even when it stops being the latest fad. What I wanted to say is, so there's so many things that we do, on this part of the world. There's so many things. There's so many innovations in the Nigerian country, in the African continent as well. Because I think there's a lot of good things that happen there. How do you think is the best way? If you had a magic wand, or if you had a wish that could be made, what would you say is the best way for us to have that cross-cultural collaboration, partnerships, projects where we can actually take the best of North America or the West and take the best of what's happening in Nigeria as well? Because I think, for example, in the fintech space, there's a lot we can learn in North America from the way we do things, from the way Nigerian fintech is run. There's a lot we can learn. So how do you think we can actually sort of collaborate, partner, share those knowledges that make the globe better as a whole?
Femi, is that a trick question? Haven't you taken enough? Like month on month, people are moving to the US and Canada. What else do you want? What sort of
Well,
collaboration do you need?
that's true. I know that. That's something that happened.
Okay,
I think we need to reverse that at some point.
no. So but on a serious note, I get your point. So for the tech landscape here, we're a bit aggressive, and guess what? It's been that way from way back. Again, I'll tell you back from when I was in InterSwitch. InterSwitch had moved to chip and pin for Nigeria, and then you will see guys that have cards from the US. I say no, it's still Max Stripe, and all that. And yeah, well, okay, yeah. So, but we needed it then because of how porous our own infrastructure was, or how we didn't have some form of infrastructure like insurance in place if there was a breach to protect the customer. Yeah. So the way to protect the customer was to ensure that card we are holding on, or the payment infrastructure is a secure one. So I think by the nature of our national infrastructure, we are a bit more aggressive to be global and have that best-in-class solution that can run across borders. So for points of collaboration, I think it's happening today. Why? Because aside from most of the tech companies, at least the proper fintechs, being incubated abroad, YC, Techstar, and the rest of them, investors too are from abroad, and they give a lot of exposure from here to there. So there's already that handshake. A lot of tech companies to survive or to scale effectively know that they need to set up abroad. So there are a lot of guys in Delaware today.
Yeah.
So I think it's happening organically. But if what I hear you is at the national level, is there something the government is doing? I think so. Again, the minister in charge used to run the tech hub, CCO, and I know there have been a lot of initiatives they've been talking about and coming about. So I don't have so much insight into that space, but I would say I see the organic integration about, so for example, today we have customers in Canada and the US. And interestingly, some of the customers we have in Canada are because the guy used to be a CISO while he was in Nigeria before he jackpot, and then he jackpot, and he's now a buying influence in the entity where he works in the US or Canada, and Gbolabo, it looks like we can still do business. And then we provide security. And like you said, from a cybersecurity perspective, the language is the same across borders. The skill is the same. In fact, a part I can tell that we are doing so well is I most likely have more mentees and people I'm putting through the transition to cybersecurity in Canada and US than I even have in Nigeria. So what happens is a lot of people move to Canada and then all of a sudden they say that, they meet Femi Ogunji and the other guys. Like, no, cybersecurity don't jaw. Well, I want to be a cybersecurity guy. You know what I mean? And then put them through a program and, they're on that journey. Yes, which feels good because it means they actually get to look back to develop the skill and capability they need to scale in that greener pasture.
Yeah.
I think it's happening organically. Whether the government would leverage this, but just like the way it is with entertainment, I think the tech space is putting the country, on
the limelight.
In the limelight, and it's making us look good globally. And they will continue to do so based on the kind of talent we are churning out and also the solutions we're churning out. So, like you've confirmed. So I think the integration will be organic because the people and the players involved are driving it and making it work.
Yeah, so
I'll
you got people
tell
like
you,
you.
yeah, well, my job is to keep the operation secure, ensure your building to last. But
Yeah,
yes, you're right. A couple of my partners, friends that have relocated and have set up fintech companies, 75% last year out of maybe 10, 7 out of them were doing cross-border payment solutions.
yeah,
They get
that's the
some
big thing
reside in
right
the
now for
UK,
fintech. Yeah,
some reside in Canada, and cross-border and yes, I help secure their business. So it's a good thing. I think it's growing by itself. The partnership is a no-brainer. So when it comes to tech doesn't see race or color or culture
yeah.
or tradition.
Yeah.
So the integration is seamless. So yeah, I think we're
That's
good
one of
when
the
it comes
things.
to
That's one of the things I think makes it
make it
so much better
so
because
much better
other
because
industries
other
there's a lot of
industries there's a
gatekeeping,
lot of gatekeeping,
accounting, law. There's a
accounting,
lot of
law, a lot of yeah
things that are
things
very
are very
localized.
localized.
Unlike tech, where the tent is big enough for
That's big
everybody.
enough for everybody.
It's like
No, it
PDP's
is,
tent
and
that time.
it is. And if you permit me to say, if I thought you were going to mention it, and I'll give it. So I don't. I'm sure. Did you see the news about some social media influencer, talking about a breach or hack on his web?
No, I've not seen that yet.
Okay, so maybe you didn't. So there's a guy called VDM, Very Dark Man. I think
Oh, I know.
he
Oh, I saw that.
launched.
I saw that one. I saw that one.
Yeah. So
I was like, interesting.
exactly. So he launched the portal when the gist of the breach came out. In different security groups and tech groups, we looked at it and said, "Oh, come on, it's not possible." Truth is, no payment operations would happen on your site. You're plugged to a payment provider that goes
Yeah.
through stringent means to integrate into another payment provider that has to comply to specific standards and put some specific controls in place. So at no point in time. And so we had that conversation and we moved on. We just assumed it was. So only for him to come back 2, 3 days later
Insider.
and say it was, yeah, that I was just messing with people and it was insulting. And when I'm like, yes, this speaks to the need for awareness, and the question now is that what sort of content is in the awareness programs that we put out there? How can people know that what's possible, what's not possible? Because the truth is there's a paranoia on, what, because I'm not sure, I won't use cards, but I won't use payment platforms.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get
True.
because I don't understand it. So for me, it just got me thinking that, okay, based on what this guy pulled, how could the populace, besides those hungry banter people on Twitter and so, Instagram
Cruise
that just wanted
catchers.
to say things, you get, besides that, I would assume that, okay, if people were better informed, they won't have jumped on that. And because, of course, dude was a bit bitter that he was attacked, people said a lot of things. And meanwhile, it was just pulling their legs or checking if they were that intelligent. So in my mind, I was speaking to a colleague. I'm like, is this a challenge to the cybersecurity space that the awareness is not good?
That's a good
Do
way
you
to look at
understand?
it.
That how can we ensure people can be more aware that, okay, you would know that, oh, come on, VDM, that it's not possible that you're just messing with us. But people jumped on it and, we're going all traditional and, people that were looking for opportunities to make the guy look bad, and say, yeah, he stole the money and all that. So, yeah. And in my mind, I'm like, fine. There's a lot of shallowness today on social media, but you would see some of the comments of some people, you would know they put a lot of thought to it, only for them to come back and say, I think I was just being stupid. Again, but it was from a knowledge perspective. If you know what's possible, you will know. And then again, the banks they use, they're not coming out to say anything. It's not possible that, they moved.
Exactly.
The most that will happen is they deface your website. If your website you get defaced, people can't access it for the particular service or solution. It just goes to show the level of, because at times you would think, I can sit down and say, oh no, from a cybersecurity perspective, the awareness level in Nigeria is high. And by the time you check, out of 200 million, only 2 million of us, not even 20, not
Yeah.
10%.
Yeah.
So it got me thinking when that happened. I'm like, man, I don't know what we'll do. Security awareness at
More
a
like
national
this. More
level.
talking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. So yes, we will do a lot of this, but at the national level, obviously things need to be done to drive that. I also like the fact that everybody wants to be a cybersecurity guy now. So the more we are, the more the evangelism would go out.
Yeah. Critical mass, like they call it. That's true. I think with time, it can only get better. It can only get better. We can only get to the point where we're able to actually get a lot more awareness out there. And I think, the things that you are doing, the things people like Confidence is doing, I think that's great. I know there's also a project that the minister is also. I saw something about it. About something to train about 3 million people in cybersecurity. I saw that a
Yes,
couple of
yes,
months
yes,
ago.
yes, yes. So yeah,
So
we were partners with them. So the idea is train and then get them jobs. So
yeah,
so right now they're still at the training stage, training a lot of fellows, and so for those that finish get a degree, also they would need to be placed. So it's capacity development and employment. So
which is the most
again,
important part.
yeah,
Yeah,
again, those are the things I'm saying that if that program goes really well, we won't be talking about shortage of talent anymore. It will be where to place talent. So
yeah, exactly.
so yeah, it sounds good. So we need to just give it time.
Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree. That's been a lot of very nice conversation. So, final thoughts. If someone were to ask you today and say, okay, I want to get into cybersecurity, I see what is happening globally. Maybe I will jack, but I don't know yet. What advice, give me some advice breaking into cybersecurity, building my capacity. What would you say?
Yeah, yeah. So like I've been telling people lately, to break into cybersecurity, you need to have that interest. You need to be interested in cybersecurity. And I get this request every week to the extent that I already have a script on WhatsApp. Like I'll just forward it to you and tell you to come back to me in a week for feedback on videos watched, document, you links, you read up on some things, and then you tell me. And what I'm trying to gauge is which area of cybersecurity has jumped out to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
by statistics, 60% of people don't come back. And I'm like, yeah, you're not interested in cybersecurity, so let's just move on. And for those that really get to dip their toes in, um, there used to be a lot of campaign that you don't need to be techie to get into cybersecurity, or you don't need tech skills. Yes, you don't need to be techie to get into cybersecurity, but you eventually need tech
Tech
skills
skills.
to scale in cybersecurity. And that's probably the best advice you can get. You're ready to develop tech skills eventually. So there used to be that talk about, I can just do GRC. Okay, fine. You get into GRC, you become a consultant or risk manager or compliance officer, but you need to understand the infrastructure.
And the
So let's say
frameworks
you
and
need
the
to audit
policies.
or assess specific risk, understand infrastructure, understand technologies being
Mm-hmm.
utilized, be able to use tools. So yeah, it's and trust me, I've had amazing pen testers that studied English in school. I know an amazing threat intel specialist that studied food and nutrition or something funny in uni. And she used to be ashamed to talk about it, but she's badass when it comes to threat intel now. Yeah, so you can, in fact, one of my key resources go first class in accounting. As in, she's most likely the most skilled threat intel specialist in the country now. So it's interest, developing capacity, having that interest, and then succeeding eventually. I've seen people get into the system and are just looking for shortcuts, trying to wing it eventually. And if cybersecurity fail, your organization gets breached or an assessment, you did a shoddy assessment and the report is funny, or one way or the other, you will get exposed and
Yeah.
it might have impacted your organization's reputation, cost you money. So I tell people, so I sort of paint a picture to either make you embrace it more, face the challenge, or scare you away. So the biggest advice would be develop that interest, know what it's about. Because even for my guys in Canada, I tell them, okay, fine, you're eyeing that job. Or I have a guy in the UK, almost say, man, cybersecurity skills, I will get like 700 per day, 600. Okay, fine. But you have to keep that job. To keep that job, you need to have skills. You need to know how to get the job. You understand? So my advice would be get into the space, develop that technical skill you need to help you sustain and grow, and be the best in your field, in whatever role you are playing in cybersecurity. You need those technical skills. See, we talk about AI today. You need to understand how AI works and how it can improve your area of cybersecurity, for example, how you can apply it and be the best at it. So embrace technical skills. That would be my final word.
Yeah. And I think there's no better way to say it than that. I think that's with a good emphasis on technical skills, you'll be able to build and develop the right skills you need to succeed in the career. Because in this career of ours, yes, it's all about interest and developing skills. For those who don't know, and I say this all the time, I also didn't have a traditional tech background. My degree is chemistry and farm chem. So, but here we are today, 15, 16 years down the line. So it's all about the interest. But thank you so much, Gbolabo, for coming on. It's been very interesting. I've enjoyed doing these episodes. Maybe in another 2 years we'll come back and give the government a scorecard and say what have they done to improve. Maybe they'll bring all of us at Jackpot, bring us back home.
No, we're really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it
Yeah,
because so we can't keep complaining. We have to keep doing
yeah,
what we can do, like what you said, what we're doing currently. Then, whenever we are called, support their programs, say, how things can improve, and then we'll come back again.
yeah. That's true. That's true. So there you have it, people. It's been very interesting contrasting and conversing about the cybersecurity industry in Canada, in Nigeria. If you're an investor looking for cybersecurity talent, consider looking in Nigeria. There's a lot of talent there. A lot of people who know what they're doing. There's a lot of people who know their stuff, and you can definitely get a lot of good things out of that market. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Consider giving us a like. If you enjoyed this episode, consider following the channel as well on YouTube, on Spotify, on various podcast platforms. And until next time, I'm saying thank you to Gbolabo for coming on, and this is Femi signing off.
Thank you for having me.